What's up, iTunes, Podomatic, Spotify, and of course, YouTube. Welcome back to episode 35 of the Journey End Phase podcast, the second episode back since our long hiatus. Joining me today on episode 5, where we will be talking about the branded structure deck, is of course Carl. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So as we do in all of our episodes, we lay them out as a standard turn of Yu-Gi-Oh! So we go to our standby phase, which is our ones to watch, which is basically each member of the podcast, so myself and Carl, will bring you a card that is rising or falling in value, worth getting rid of or picking up. And then we'll also talk you through either a tech card or a deck that is going to be really good this format, or just a anti-meta option that's fun to play. We then move into our main phase 1, where we will talk about a top 3 topic. This one we're going to be talking about board breakers, but considering there's only 2 of us, we're pretty much just going to list out the board breakers that are effective for this format, so you can kind of keep up to date with everything you need to do. We'll then move into our battle phase, where all of the good stuff gets done, and that is where we are going to discuss one of the decks of the formats, and that is of course branded. So not only have they got huge amounts of support in the past, they've got more future support, and thanks to the ban list, they're actually even more powerful and ready to rock and roll for this meta. As we saw with YCS Vegas, we'll talk about YCS Vegas, YCS London coming down, and everything else as we go. We then move into our main phase 2, and in our main phase 2, at the time of recording this podcast, we haven't seen any more leaks for Maze of Memories, so we're going to discuss that in a bit more depth, as that is the main set that is coming out in March. And then we'll move to our end phase, where we will answer your listener questions that you guys have sent in for us. So, with all of that out of the way, let's dive straight into our standby phase and our ones to watch. Time So the ones to watch, as it pretty much says on the tin, each week the members of the podcast will bring you cards that are either rising or falling in value, or a tech card and or deck that is worth keeping an eye on for the upcoming format. So let's start off with Carl's Market Watch card. Carl, what have you found for the listeners to be picking up or selling?
So I've got one for each. I'll start off with to pick up, and that would be, if not the structure decks, the new Trap Trick structure decks, it's the super rare evenly matched inside the structure decks. Like, yes, we've now had, I believe this would be the 3rd print. However, evenly matched has kept value the whole time, and on top of that, it's a broken card. Everyone should have a place there if possible. So for my to buy is evenly matched.
Yeah, I think I was going to mention Trap Tricks as like the tech deck or something to look out for, but I'm pretty sure I mentioned that last time. But yeah, like this structure deck, so many. I don't get this. I mean, I do get it because it's the Yu-Gi-Oh community, but so many people.
Say no more.
I know. What is it? That famous Jose Mourinho? I don't speak, I get in trouble, or I speak, I get in trouble, something like that. Anyway, the structure deck itself is actually very, very good for its reprints. Like, when you think about it and when you look at it, you get Raigeki, Board Breaker, that's going to be relevant in a minute, and then Harpy's Feather Duster, plus evenly matched, plus an Ash Blossom. You get 4 staple cards, each of those definitely worth £2.50 each at least. I mean, Ash was £5 before this confirmed reprint. Ash has now had, and I'm trying to remember this off the top of my head, I could be completely wrong, it's had 2 secret prints, 2 ultra prints, a super print, and 2 common prints. And no, sorry, I take that back. It's actually had 3 ultra prints, and then it's also had a gold print, and technically 2 gold prints if you count the alternate arts. So that's been printed to madness. If you don't have an Ash Blossom, what are you doing? Anyway, cards to pick up, cards to get rid of. I'm probably going to steal one of Carl's here, but I don't know. It's really weird with cards like this, but Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. So this is the brand new card, which again will get relevant when we talk about branded later on the podcast. But this card is basically a new card for branded. Well, not a new card. It's an old card. It came out in Number Hunters, but it's one of them classic cards that's only ever had one print. Someone uses it at a YCS Vegas, does incredibly well with it, and then instantly everyone wants to buy it. So it goes from a £2 card to a £10 card. Now what it does is, off of Branded Expulsion, you get to target 2 monsters, one that are banished or graveyard, doesn't matter. Special summon 1 to your opponent's side of the field, special summon 1 to your field. When the Gimmick Puppet is summoned, for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon monsters except Gimmick Puppet monsters. And because it's special summoned to your opponent's side of the field, it triggers as if they've activated it, so they cannot special summon monsters except Gimmick Puppets. It gives them a monster, so Cashteras can't just special summon a monster down for free. And then the next turn, they move to the end phase, and you probably go Mirror Jade, banish it, get rid of it. and then you swing in like for OTK the next turn. It's absolutely insane. Very, very control heavy. The only time that you could possibly get a reprint would be in Maze of Memories, which is the nearest reprint set. And I
Which
would
is
be
already pretty sure they've already printed everything, so it's not going to be in there.
Yeah, exactly. It's already gone through production. So Konami, like when you see a brand new tech drop and you're like, oh my god, it's only had one print. It takes a while for Konami to reprint it. Like I think the last one I saw was Smoke Grenade. Was it Smoke Grenade of the Thief or Thief of the Smoke Grenade?
Infonobles.
Infonobles. So it was a £5 common card. It had a single print or two prints from back in like 2004 or something crazy.
It just had a common print.
Yeah. And there was so much hype around it, and Konami really wanted to send Infonobles that they reprinted it in the OTS set as a super. But that OTS set didn't come out for like a month or two after the card had peaked popularity. So it's always difficult to decide whether you want to sell a card like that at £10 or wait. Personally, to me, because it's a one-of, there's only going to be so many. So it's definitely worth kind of shifting, in my opinion. Carl, you said you had another card.
So I put to sell, and I think you'll enjoy this one a bit more, is Blade Armor Ninja. It's only had one print. It's a super rare, I believe it was a rank 4 warrior that allows, I think you target a monster and it can attack twice, and with the name Ninja, I believe it goes in the Ninja deck. And I believe at the moment they're sitting at around £10 to £15 as super.
No, get out of here.
Really? It's
God
honestly
damn it,
£10 to £15.
It was a Cosmo Blazer limited edition promo.
Mm-hmm.
God damn it. I mean, to be fair, that's kind of the same thing for Hanzo as well, or Hanzo, however you want to pronounce it. As an ultimate rare, they're like £50 a copy now. So Michael's probably somewhere laughing. That's what happens, ladies and gentlemen, when Jesse Cotton or one of the best Yu-Gi-Oh players in the world plays a deck.
And he probably is the best, so it's good advice to take.
I mean, the ninjas do look really, really cool. The issue is that they're not. I'm still working with how consistent they are. Obviously, I don't believe that Jesse's team got into the top cut of YCS Vegas, but it's still very, very good. The deck is fun, and it's definitely going to be getting more future support as well. So yeah, I mean, if Blade Armor Ninja is like £10 to £15 super, 100% get rid of that card. That's an almost like mental no-brainer. So
it has to be, for the sake of £15. It's insane for a deck that's fun, reasonably good. When you've got someone like Jesse piloting it, it's more than fun or reasonably good. But to the majority of people, that's what it is. And for a £15 super that you might have a stash of, get rid of them.
Yeah, exactly that. Like the amount of not to say amount of people. There's not loads of people that do this, but there are those odd people every now and then that have just got a bulk of random crap. So like vendors will have stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of cards, and then one day when a card like this becomes relevant, they're like, "Yes, I can claim back some of my investment of bad decisions back way back when."
Decision from what? 10 years ago?
Yeah.
No, maybe not 10. More like 9 or 8 years ago. It's insane that it is insane that it's this long a card. Like the same with the Gimmick Puppet. I believe that was 6 or 7.
Nah, definitely got to be 10. I've been playing for 6, and I think Number Hunters had been out for like a year since I joined. So maybe like 7 or 8, maybe 9 years. It's crazy. Well, crazy.
We were 2014 format.
I tell you what, I know what they're going to do. They're going to like drop it in like some XYZ Speed Duels format as like a sequel or something.
I will switch, bro. I'll switch the Speed Duels right now.
I mean, the Speed Duels sequels actually look really nice. They actually glisten a lot more than our ones. But
XEs is my jam. Like, you give me any brand new XEs deck, yeah, I'm going to get it. Unless it's that furry one. That one creeped me out.
Oh, the Pearlies. Or Pearlies. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Cool. Well, I mean, that leads nicely onto like the tech deck. I mean, we've already we're kind of breaking the mold on these videos. We're not this video. Well, yeah, video if you're watching on YouTube, podcast if you're listening along. Because we're used to having 3 people, we usually try to keep it like formatted. But you know what? We're just going to pretty much go into like each section, and we're just going to blab about what we think is a good deck. So we've already mentioned Tratrix. Yeah. I mean, Tractrix' budget, well worth picking up. Free structure decks, like I said, £24 on Tier 0 games. Or if you're at a local store, you're probably paying about 30 quid. You'll get the new Lost Art, which is Tractrix Alamiris, which is kind of cool. And you've got staples that you're going to need. Two of the best staples in Evenly and Ash. And you've got a deck that, as Pack has already shown on his YouTube channel, can very, very well compete.
Was it evenly Ash and is the other one Brygeki that's reasonably big?
Yeah, I would say Raigeki's in. I would even say Duster's pretty big, but the issue with Duster is just a one-off. But I mean, like when the difference with the Tractrix deck is you've got everything. Like there is not a single Tractrix monster that is missing that you didn't get in that structure deck. It covers all of the most recent ones, all of the new ones, all of the old ones. It's not like, oh yeah, they didn't reprint this one card that hasn't had a print since 2005. Crap, I've got to go and find it now. So yeah, and then we've already talked about ninjas as well. I think ninjas is a great deck.
When it comes to the Traptrix as well, when you shared the other day the picture of what's in the deck, I looked at that picture and went, okay, that looks like it's every Traptrix card. So I went to Tier 0, bought 3 of the deck, even though I'm pretty sure in bulk I've got the majority of the stuff, but I want the additional reprints. So it is an amazing investment.
Simp. No, like I think Tractrix gets such a bad rep. Like, for anyone listening along, right? If you have ever gone to play Tractrix and someone's come up to you and said, "Oh, why are you playing that? That's such a deck," or "That's such a," they're only saying that because they're scared, right? The deck is genuinely good. I played it. I mean, look, I played it before the new support. The only thing it was missing was a boss monster. And I played it with Fusion Destiny. That was cool. I played it with Red Ice Fusion. That was cool. And now it doesn't even really need those boss monsters. It's really, really cool. Really, really strong as well. And, you know, if Pac, one of the best players in possibly the world, definitely in America, is able to play it and do incredibly well. And the thing is, and I'll admit, I was skeptical on this as well. When Pac put out his profile, because he put his profile out first and then he put out his duel video or his vlog. He put out his profile and I was like, okay, well, I know Pac's a good pilot, so, you know, I'm not really going to take too much from that. And then it was like, okay, well, maybe his locals wasn't that good, or maybe his opponents weren't that good. And in fairness, his opponents weren't bad, but some of them bricked like a mother. So he did very, very well with it. And the reason I bring that up is I was watching some videos today, and my God, you can definitely tell. I'm probably going to get absolutely flamed for this. You can definitely tell. You can definitely tell content creators that have just put out a bit of content for the sake of putting out content. Like, I watched some builds and I was like, all right, let's see how creative you are. And my God, some of them were so bad. I was like, this is evident proof that you've never played the deck, and when you've built it, you haven't even tested it. So
yeah, that's reasonably common.
I mean, like,
there's some that are just so bad, and I won't go back and watch any of their videos because I've seen how bad their builds have been previously.
Yeah, I mean, we're going off topic here anyway, but it's definitely interesting to see different techniques in content creation, and there are some really, really creative content providers. There's some very entertaining content providers. Like, I don't regularly watch MBT, but I watched his video where he recounted YCS Vegas, and it was kind of like listening to a podcast. It was actually really funny to listen along. I gave so much stick to Team Sam early on. I was like, yo, he's just doing clickbait. Oh, he's so bad. And then I actually stopped and thought, I went, actually, this man's a complete genius, because he knows exactly what he's doing. So
he knows his target audience.
Yeah, exactly that. He knows his target audience. There are others out there that know their target audience, and I don't agree with the way they present their content, but, you know, that's just me. Anyway, continuing off with the rant. We've talked about different decks. We've talked about different cards you should be buying and selling and picking up and everything like that. There's always like these random cards that are worth stupid amounts of money that might have future potential of going up, and then they might have future potential of just crashing hard, so you need to get rid of them quickly. So definitely worth keeping on. Anyway, let's move on to our main phase 1. and our top three, or basically our board breaking discussion. And this week's subject is going to be board breakers. It seems that the way the meta has gone, that we have shifted quite a lot into more board breakers, and they can consist of quite a lot of cards. So I don't know what Carl's kind of done, but for me, I've kind of put on the subject of the card that you select needs to physically break the board. And what I mean by that is, even if you're giving your opponent a monster, so I'm going to use kaiju for an example, because I can almost guarantee that throughout this topic we're going to talk about the other two cards that are basically pseudo kaijus. One that's been around for absolutely ages and just now kind of sees its way into the main format. And then we'll also talk about, all the other spells and traps that you can do to break a board. So, Carl, I'll let you kind of go first. What kind of card? Let's start with a card at a time. We'll bounce back and forth until we probably eventually run out. So what card have you put on your board breaking list?
To make things really easy for both of us, I've actually gone for one that's a little bit more inconspicuous, and that's Swords of Concealing Light. Very similar to Book of Eclipse, however, not a quick effect. But it doesn't have the negative side of losing to Ash and giving your opponent draws if you're unable to wipe the board. So it's depending on the deck you're playing. So I'll give an example. I am quite keen on playing Exorcisters, and Exorcisters, unless they open well, can't necessarily clear the Kashtira board if I Book of Eclipse it. They can if they open the 2-card combo, but if they don't, they can remove 2 cards, maybe 3. However, so I don't want to give them a draw 2 or a draw 1 depending on their end board. So Swords of Concealing Light, if you're unable to do this, will flip them all face down, and it just remains in the field, I believe, until the second standby phase after activation, and there's no drawback.
Yeah, exactly. So I think what we'll do is we'll try and cover. I think what might be better is I'll let you name a board destruction card, and then we can bounce back all of the cards that revolve around that are similar. So what I mean by that is, for example, you've said Swords of Concealing Light. So straight away, you then look at other cards such as Book of Lunar Eclipse, Book of Eclipse, Book of Moon. I would probably class, probably sounds a little bit bad, but I'd probably class Darkworld and No More within that category. And that category is a card that doesn't technically break a board, but it turns a board off. As you've already mentioned, there's so many different pros and cons for all of the cards that is most effective against a Kashtira board. So like you said, Swords of Concealing Light is a continuous spell card, so the issue with that is it can technically be responded with a form of pop or removal. Book of Eclipse benefit is non-target. The negative is because it draws cards, it can be negated with Ash Blossom, which is quite funny. And like you said, if you can't clear their board, your opponent's going to plus off it. You've then got Book of Lunar Eclipse, which is Book of Moon 2 cards on the field. The downside is that you need to discard a card and it targets. And then, of course, you've got the good old faithful Book of Moon. The issue with that is it targets and will only flip one monster face down. The reason I'm putting Darkworld and No More into that kind of category is, again, because you activate Darkworld and No More with nothing else. It's not board breaking, it's just a board switch off. So kind of, I suppose you also put Forbidden Droplet under that category as well. But they all have very, very good uses. The funny thing is, stuff like droplets with a format like this is probably like that a very good gap in the market to go and pick up droplets if you don't have them. Like a lot of people are selling them for like 20 quid a copy. I think you might, if you've got a really good friend that's got like a second playset somewhere, might be able to pick up a full playset for about 50 quid. But it's one of them cards that's either going to get another reprint or is basically going to start climbing up in value. Okay, cool. What's your second card for like board breaking or dealing with an opponent's board?
Again, I'll go with one that does have negative connotations. I think a lot of them do. Well, yeah, pretty much they all do. They all have something that makes them fair, shall we say. But this case is evenly. I love evenly matched. In this format, obviously, it really affects Kashtira. It depends on how many zones they've locked out, depending on then decides what target they're going to keep. You know, if they've done the whole 5 to 6 to 8 to so on zones, they're going to keep Shangri-La. However, if they haven't done that and they've only done the free zone lockout and it's not really effective, so say you're not playing Pendulum, then they're probably going to keep a Rise Heart. But evenly match, also you're losing your battle phase. So if you're able to remove cards without going into your battle phase and remove the target that they leave, perfect. But evenly match being a board wipe in the sense of monsters and spell and traps, it's good this format because of Labyrinth, which is an insanely good control deck. Like, I love control because I don't want to use my brain, but Labyrinth is insanely good, and the price is showing that at the moment. But for that reason alone, evenly matched takes care of both decks.
Yeah, I think evenly matched has probably been my most consistent staple side deck card since it's been revealed, like released.
Yeah,
The thing that makes evenly matched kind of in like its own realm of board break capabilities is the fact that, so for those that don't know this that are listening along, you're going to learn something here. Evenly match affects the player, not the board. So if your opponent had 5 monsters and all of them were unaffected by trap effects, it's not evenly matched that is technically directly affecting those monsters to banish them. It's the evenly matched saying to your opponent, you have to banish them, you can only keep one. And that's why evenly matched. So the reason this comes out is back in the day when evenly matched first dropped, there was a ruling or a question in regards to versus masterpiece. If an opponent had a token and a masterpiece that was unaffected by trap effects, and his opponent activates evenly matched, because a token cannot be banished face down, which we'll get onto that in a minute. Does he then get to, and because masterpiece is unaffected by trap effects, does he get to keep the masterpiece? And the answer is actually no, because it's the player that chooses to banish face down. Now, the reason that example came up was exactly that. If your opponent has a token, they have to keep the token when they get hit with an evenly matched, which is the most devastating part ever. It's what made it so good against an adventure deck. Like, if you could imperm the Griffin and then evenly match them, you know you were leaving them with just a token. Like, no matter if they had the strongest towers in the entire game on their board, that evenly matched instantly, boom, gone, done. So, like Carl said, the only downside of evenly matched is it uses your battle phase. But I feel that if evenly matched didn't use your battle phase, it'd be probably one of the most broken cards in Yu-Gi-Oh history. The fact that it's a trap card and can be used during either player's turn is unbelievably mental. So yeah, it is, in my opinion, number one, if not very, very high up of the general board breaking capabilities. The fact that it covers both front row and back row is mental. So
I'm the exact same for that same reason. It's the fact that it does both rows, front and back. I just find the card incredible.
okay, so what is your another card you would mention on your board breaking list?
So I will combine these two into one if you don't mind, because they are the same. Lava Golem and Sphere Mode. Obviously, Lava Golem takes up your normal summon, so that's the neg. Sphere Mode can be special summoned, but you can't target it, so you can't beat over it like way you can with Lava Golem. I think you can't target it for attacks or card effects. Sphere Mode, don't mean. So one takes up a normal, the other one is just a special summon, but then you can't remove it, so you can't attack for game on that turn.
Yes.
Both of them are incredible in this format. However, it's quite easy, and I'll say this with a pinch of salt, but it is reasonably easy to play around Sphere Mode. Most boards can happily end on just 2 monsters, because we're in a weird game state the last couple of years where we don't just slap monsters on the field. We normally have interruption in hand that's archetype specific, or in the back row, as well as monsters on field. So just having 2 monsters on field and having those other forms of interruption, Sphere Mode can be played around. But then again, Sphere Mode doesn't suck up your normal summon, so that is also still a reason to consider it. Like game one, I don't think Cash Tira will play around. Well, yeah, game one, I don't think Cash Tira will play around Sphere Mode. However, game two and game three, you can expect them to. While Lava Golem is it's live like the majority of the time, unless they're really forcing themselves to sit on, say, a Rise Heart, which with Kashtira's back row, that's not necessarily good enough.
No, exactly. Just a quick correction on that, because it's a quite common misconception. So Lava Golem doesn't actually, so Lava Golem is technically a special summon, and it just doesn't allow you to normal summon that turn. However, Ra Sphere mode is a normal summon. You're allowed to use your opponent's board to do it. So both of them don't let you normal summon. One of them technically doesn't let you normal summon, but is a special summon, and Ra Sphere mode is a normal summon. So that's why there was the argument when we were facing down Flunderees with the barrier statue, is that Ra Sphere mode is better because Ra Sphere mode can technically, as it is a normal summon, can out a Christia board, a wind barrier statue board, and everything else. So quite like evenly matched in the Book of Eclipses and everything like that. When you look at Kaijus, Lava Golems, you can even include Santa Claus in there if you want to, and Ra Sphere mode, all of them have their benefits and negatives, which is what I feel makes a fairly balanced card. Like, it's not just like Mystic Mine, where, I mean, even though that does have a drawback, but so Kaiju will only get rid of one card. Lava Golem will get rid of 2 cards, but is a 3k beta and takes away your normal summon. Ra Sphere mode takes away your normal summon, can't be targeted, like you said. You really cannot deal with it. There are ways to deal with it, but it's just a lot more trickier to deal with it. And the fact that it needs to take away 3 monsters, like you said, a lot of people can play a little bit more reserved, and like a cash board can end on just 2 monsters, and that's just enough to win them the game. So personally, I think right now my favorite card alongside evenly matched and everything else is Lava Golem. Like, if I was to do a top 3 at the moment, evenly matched would definitely feature, and so would Lava Golem. And the only reason that Lava Golem features so heavily for me is because it goes in Dark Worlds. It goes in Branded right now because they can play without their normal summon. The fact that it's searchable in Cash Tiers is pretty funny because there's a small world bridge to it, which is pretty cool. And then on the back of that as well, it's a level 8. So if you play any level 8 decks with trade in or anything else, it's very, very good to kind of ditch and go. So that's my personal favourite. I do want to get a playset of Ghost Balls. And if I get a playset of Ghost Balls, I'm only going to call them Ghost Balls. So for those of you that don't know, I'm not like ripping off the Alien film with Simon Pegg where it's like, I want to know what alien junk feels like. It's literally Ra Sphere mode. It's basically a Ghost Ball. So it's just, I just think it's kind of funny how you could, Lava Golem's pretty good and a normal Ra Sphere mode's pretty cool. But it's not every day you can go, ha, you just got Ghost Balled. So, yeah, that would be pretty funny.
Sounds like the start of a new kink.
They're actually, like, they were pretty cheap. And then I think it was Andre Delany. I'll probably butchered his second name, but he plays for Tier 0. And he basically got, I think he bubbled at YCS, not Vegas, but Leon. And his side deck featured 3 Ghost Balls. And then since then, everyone's like, oh, I'm going to get Ghost Balls. So, yeah. Okay, cool. So Kaiju's, Lava Golem, Santa Claus, Ra Sphere mode. What is another like board breaking card or like a group of cards you would consider?
These are the final ones I've come up with, but the books, like Book of Moon, Book of Eclipse. Like, as much as we spoke about Book of Eclipse in comparison to Swords of Concealing, it is insanely good right now. It's the fact that you can use it during both turns, as you can evenly. So it's a given point for evenly. However, you don't need to be at the end of the battle phase to conduct it. So, if you're against someone and they need them, say they're a link deck, like, let's step away from the cash tier for a second. Say they're a link deck and you Book of Eclipse them, like, you might as well say goodbye to their turn. If they haven't got the extender, they haven't got the resources, or you just time it well. Book of Eclipse on its own, amazing. Again, but it can be ashed, and if you can't out all the monsters, they gain hand advantage. So imagine if it was a format that had Maxi in it, you would not want to be risking that. Like, however, luckily we don't have it, and I say luckily, I've always wanted Maxi back, bring the boy back. But Book of Moon, on the other hand, is just target 1, flip it, which is great. Again, quick effect during your opponent's turn. No negative side of it. However, it's only 1, so it can't do enough in the current format.
Yeah, I'm quite surprised that we haven't. So I suppose I'll mention these. So I suppose other board breakers, whether you class them as everything or just one or the other. So you've got stuff like Harpy's Feather Duster. You've got stuff like Regeki, Dark Hole, Lightning Storm. To me, they all pretty much fit under the same umbrella.
I would say Lightning Storm, Harpy's Feather Duster is good now because we can search them with Frost.
Yeah.
But before, I I wouldn't like Lightning Storm as the big setback of what is it, not having any face-up cards. Harpy's Feather Dust is at one. You know,
Yeah.
it's like when we had Maxi at one, it's like, oh my god, you drew the out, like literally the out. But now that it's searchable, like both those cards, yeah, definitely. I think I'm playing both of those in side deck with Thrust at the moment.
Yeah, and then we've probably missed some. So if we have, then by all means, please put them in the comments down below, or let us know. But there are so many. The last one that we haven't talked about yet, which I'm still slightly surprised about, is Nibiru. So Nibiru is probably the most modernized board-breaking card. Like it's just the fact that it came as a Tim promo was amazing, but it changed the game. It's never been so mental. Like, before Nibiru hit, there was never a point where you were like, 5 summons, and you went, oh, I better not make that 5th summon. Like, literally, back in the day before Nibiru, everyone was like, I've just completed my 15th summon of the turn. Pass. Whereas now it's like,
I've just drawn 15 cards off Maxi.
yeah, exactly. But now it's like, don't have Nibiru, don't have Nibiru, don't have Nibiru. And then they go draw, and you go, whew, okay.
When you draw the Nibiru for your 6th card.
100%. I did that with Maxi before the ban, before it got killed, and then I've done it with Nibiru like every damn time, or an Ash Blossom. Like, literally, activate Branded Fusion, Ash Blossom ends their turn, game over, and it's like, draw it for the 6th card. Of course you do.
Of course, 100%.
We haven't really talked about Karakora either. Karakora is actually a funny one because the artwork, I think, is absolutely incredible. And if you're watching along on YouTube, I will try and put all of the images of the cards that we mention up on screen so you can kind of see them and read their effects. But Karakara, or Karakara, however you want to pronounce it, it spiked in popularity. Just before Cash, we got the second wave of Cash. It spiked in popularity because everyone was like, oh my god, this is the best board-breaking card against this deck ever. And then everyone stopped and realised, oh yeah, we're degenerate. We're going to lock out 5 zones, so you can't even activate Karakora to kind of nuke a board. So again, for those of you listening along and you weren't familiar with this, you cannot Nibiru and you cannot Karakora if they have locked all of your monster zones out. So good luck with that if they do that.
You have a zone for it to summon 2 to even be able to activate, because it's all part of the same effect.
Yeah, exactly that. So Karakora is a kind of cool one, but it's not nowhere near as effective.
I like the card, but I don't respect it. It's the fact that it gets big and it gets insane. But just because you've attempted to wipe a board and then attempted to get the summon and then attempting to go into the battle phase, it's not, everything doesn't all happen in one moment to do the big impact like evenly, and these cards do. Like, and it needs to resolve. Like, I know Cashier was not playing in the gate, but when you had cards like evenly that Dark Ruler that can't be responded to, it's like, it's good, but it's not as good as the other board wipe.
So that was our, well, I wouldn't even say top 3. Let's say that was our board breaking discussion. And anyway, we're going to move on to our battle phase, and we are going to talk about one of the decks of the format, and that will of course be Branded. Okay, so the battle phase. This is where all of the nitty-gritty details get done. So, in our battle phase today, we are going to be talking about one of my favourite decks of the format. It does get a little bit boring when everyone plays it, but my god, does it look nice as a Starlight. And that is, of course, Branded. Now, Branded, I believe... Well, Branded was a structure that came out just under a year ago. We talked about it on our last episode. It's probably one of the best structure decks we've had for a long, long time. Now, Branded received 2 brand new main deck cards in the form, and I'm not going to call its first name because I always get it wrong. It's like Grand Guglion or Nog, something like that. But anyway, Dust Dragon and Rimbrum. Both of those cards are absolutely mental, and Branded only got second at YCS, coming second to Cashtira's, and we all saw that massacre on table 2 where he got 9 zone locked, which was absolutely horrific. The deck has evolved quite nicely, and we'll talk about the YCS deck builds in a minute because the top 2 pretty much played the same build, and they had some very interesting spicy additions. Branded with Bystial, so that is the main deck right now. The reason Bystials are so good, and it's quite nice that they're part of the lore as well, But the reason they're so good is they can banish certain elements of the branded cards. They can be used as branded fusion material. I can't believe we got a Starlight Mirror Jade without a Starlight branded fusion, but hopefully one day we get an ultimate branded fusion. That would be beautiful.
Yeah.
And it has probably the strongest, if not one of the strongest fusion cards in the entire game. It's got, like, Konami have tried to rarity bump this massively. Like, Cartesia is a Starlight, Aluba is an ulti, Fallen of Albaz is an ulti, and then if you look back to all of the other Ecclesia kind of variants as well, you've got Irish Sword Soul is a Starlight, Ecclesia is a Starlight, the Victorious Ecclesia is a Starlight as well for the Sword Soul, so loads. Anyway, if you don't know the lore of Albaz, go and check that out. There is a couple of videos on YouTube. I've tried to do one myself, or I've been looking into one myself, but there is a lot to cover. Now, the deck itself is fusion-based because its strongest card in the form of branded fusion locks you into fusions for the entire turn, not just after you activate it. It has access to a very, very strong boss monster in the form of Mirror Jade, which has a non-target banish, which also allows it to Foolish Burial one of its other Albaz fusion monsters from the extra deck, ultimately leading to additional end phase effects. Because you've got stuff like Titaniclad, which is the Dogmatica Albaz fusion. You've got Albion and Albulanatus, which both search you out or set you a branded fusion spell, or in Albulanatus' effect, a fusion spell in the end phase. You've got Lubellion, which allows you to special summon a level 8 or higher by spinning back the materials from the banished zone or graveyard. Albion, that banishes materials from the graveyard, hand, or field to special summon. And then you've got stuff like Brigand, which is I believe it is the Tri-Brigade fusion with Albaz. And then you've got another one, which is, I believe, the Spring Guns fusion. So it's really nice how all of the fusions intertwine. It's really nice how they've been supported over so many different sets. The competitive viability of this deck is absolutely mental. The issue with it is it can lose to an Ash Blossom. An Ash Blossom on the branded fusion is near enough devastating. And the reason this is important is that's what gets us into the spicy plays that were played for YCS Vegas. So as the deck has developed, with the brand new support and Cartesia being even more important, some decks are now starting to play Fusion Deployment. Fusion Deployment locks you into Fusion Summoning for the entire turn, quite like Branded Fusion, but it lets you special summon a monster that is listed on a Fusion monster in your extra deck from the deck. There you go, that means you can special summon Cartesia now because it is listed on the Dust Dragon from your extra deck. You can also summon out Albaz, which has its own contact fuse effect on the board. But what is incredibly spicy is if you put Aquadolphin into your Neospatian Aquadolphin into your main deck, side deck, anything like that, you can actually Fusion Deployment out the Aquadolphin, use Aquadolphin's effect to rip an Ash Blossom from your opponent's hand. It can be a little bit risky because you could lose another card in your hand, but ultimately when you're discarding cards like the Merry Courier that you want to be banished, or a Tragedy that you want to be banished off of a Bystial, and you're making sure your route of play is clear for a branded fusion, you're in dreamland. The deck is very, very powerful. The fact that it got all the way to second with YCS at YCS Vegas, yes, it did lose to Cash Tearers, but let's be honest, if you saw those duels, and if you haven't seen those duels, go and check them out. I'm pretty sure anyone would have lost those games. Like,
how can you not lose to a 9-zone lockout? Like, you're being told you can't play. Like, it's above being told you can't special summon. You're being told you cannot play.
Yeah, I mean, the branded players did everything they could, and on top of that, they also had, like, again, one of the best young players in arguably the world as well, in the form of Ryan Yu, who was piloting Labyrinths. But yeah, Triple Cash was always going to be difficult, and even I think it's Dominic Couch as well, wasn't it? The one that was in the middle that did the 9-zone lock. Yeah. He's generally, again, really, really good player. So you kind of see the level. It's going to be interesting to see how YCS London kind of shapes, but that being said, I feel that Brand is an incredibly powerful deck. It's got great options going first, great options going second. The issue is that its biggest Achilles heel is its best card in the form of Branded Fusion. And the more familiar you get with the deck, you know instantly when to stop that particular route of play. That being said, that's where the creativeness comes behind this deck, because that's where players will now start to learn to adapt or play it differently, find other ways to play around zone lock, which is why people are considering putting back the field spell, Theatre of Despia, back into the deck, and everything else. So branders are incredibly powerful, and Fusion is the original extra deck mechanic. So I cannot imagine that is going to stop getting new fusions, new supports. I know the Brandies aren't putting huge amounts of exterior fusion monsters in there, but they've had Guardian Chimera, which is getting a reprint in Maze of Memories, which we'll talk about in Main Phase 2. They've also had Garura, if they want to do that. They've got access to Super Poly, which is at free. So the deck has so many options. It's absolutely crazy. It's very consistent, and it utilizes all areas of the deck. So it uses the main deck, the graveyard, the extra deck, the banish zone, the field, the back row, you name it. It will utilize it and give a very, very good all-round balance of a deck. So that's me pretty much going out on everything to talk about Branded. What have you got to say about Branded, Carl?
I haven't played it near as much as you, but I remember when it first came out and we first got the structure deck, I was a hardcore fan of Branded. Like even now, I try, not on Dale's level, but I try and keep it high rarity, high-ish. I'll get OTs, but I'm not going for those Starlights or Collectors. No way. That's all your game. Looks really good though. Branded's incredible, man. There's something about the interactions, the way that, like you said, the way it uses all forms of play, so it's field, hand, and grave. It's kind of nice if you're an old school player to see a pure fusion deck just go off, and it's both, it can control really easily and it can OTK very easily. It has its own in art type hand trap. However, Branded does have its weaknesses in the form of it can lose quite easily to Super Poly. Evenly can really disturb the deck, hence why again it's massive this format. I don't want to bring it up, but barrier, oh god, like I hope you open up well if you're gonna get barriered, because yeah, it just turns the deck off completely. Like you're saying though, fusion deployment, I've been testing it. I was playing Branded in high spirits before, but then when you do get ashed on the Branded fusion, like having that fusion deployment is incredible. At least then you can get out your Cartesia, and you set off the new dusk, you send the Bestial Rebellion, and if you're playing the trap, which a lot of people are cutting at the moment, the Branded Beast, at least you can get that form of interruption. At the moment, the branded side of it is the majority, and the not the branded side, but the branded and the Despia side. But the bestial package is being reduced everywhere. I look like I can't remember. I think the YCS one was only playing one Lubellion and one Saranir, which to me is mind blowing. Like, I'm not one to judge. He's the winner. He's the better player. But like the package has gone down, so it's allowing a lot of other decks, like, you're gonna hate this, but Drytron to come back into the format, because Bestials were the decks stunning that. But all in all, the deck is such a powerhouse. It's so much fun to play. And I believe that if you're a player that you make mistakes as you're playing, as we all do with certain decks or at certain points of when we started the game, it's actually, like, people are gonna. It's probably gonna be a really argumentative point, but it's quite forgiving in the sense that as long as you don't do a major ball up, it's quite forgiving in the sense of its fusion, and because it can fuse from banish, from grave, from hand, from field, you can kind of, if you make a mistake, as long as you have a card to fix it, which in this archetype, when it comes to fusion, a lot of the time you do. Hence, like, branded in red can repair a game state for you. It's quite forgiving. So if you want to get into combo and you want to have all bases covered, but you are reasonably it's a good deck to practice with.
Yeah, I was also pretty, quite surprised by I suppose the lack of Bystials in the top two, because both the players that made top two in that event only played one Saranir, which is now the new best card in my opinion, and
100%.
one Lubellion. So they definitely changed up what they had, and that was a bit of a shot to the system. But that's where the spice kind of came into play as well, because that's where people were playing. That's where they were playing the Aquadolphin. That's where they introduced the Gimmick Puppet, which is obviously a massive kind of inclusion for the deck, or a revelation for the deck, because people were playing Ra's Disciple before that, and they was also playing Ido, the Magical Beast.
And you got Dragoons come back into the deck as well.
Yeah.
The single Dark Magician in the deck, which I love to see it, and it's hat off to Dark Magician kind of moment.
Yeah, no, it's nice for that to be involved, but it's just interesting how the deck evolves, and that's what I mean. Like Ido was a £50 secret, all because of branded, which is like absolutely mental. But yeah, the deck's incredibly powerful. It's very consistent, but as both me and Carl have said, it loses to two cards that are now fully back into the meta, and that's Ash Blossom and Evenly Matched. So they don't have an out and out to it. That's way too many outs. An out. Like, well, I want to go out.
I want to go out. I just don't want to out him. I want to out him.
I don't want to out it. Oh, mate, good old Mickey Flanagan. That's Cockney humour for you guys listening at home. And for those of you who don't know what Cockney is, it is basically London's accent. So if you're from East End, if you're from like Texas, obviously Texas have their own accent, and if you're from like Louisiana, New York, everything like Brooklyn, everything like that, you've got your own little accents. We have that everywhere around the UK. So we've got like Geordie, Geordie, you've got Yorkshire, you've got Cockney, which is London. I don't get what's going on.
As you say, this is torture.
You're from London. I mean,
you sound like you're from London.
You sound like you're from London. The fact is, like, this podcast has gone on such a random, maybe it's Rob that keeps us in check. I don't know, but this has gone on such a random tangent.
You should never just have people rant about anything and everything.
We've talked about we have talked about the most random stuff in the entire world on this. So, yeah, branded, good deck. And I think that the representation at YCS is I would say relatively accurate in what I was expecting the format to kind of show. And what I mean by that is that Cash is the best deck, even though it had so many targets on the back. The competent, high level, experienced players would be able to deal with it, and that's exactly what we got to see. Branded was definitely going to make a resurgence because Branded has, in fairness, a fairly good game, a fairly good matchup against Cash Tirers. But then, like we've already discussed, there is
lose 9 points.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what deck you have, what deck you're playing, you can't beat a 9 zone lock. It's just not humanly possible. So.
It's like you said, the representation suited Branded exactly. And when I said that no matter what type of player you are, you can pick this up to learn, Branded is very much like if you are a really good player, you can go so far with Branded. Like Branded with a good pilot it's not impossible to beat, but it's nearly there. Like with a good pilot, the deck is incredible.
Yeah, 100%, and that's where it gets a little bit. That's where it gets a little bit tricky. Is again, you need to be a competent pilot. I think that will come on. We'll come on to that when we talk about our listener questions, because there was a good one about like decks to start off with and structure and everything like that. But when you look back at structures, it can get a little bit overwhelming depending on which one you pick up. That being said, again, we talked about the versatility of Branded. The fact that Branded can utilize so much, like. Before it got a Luba, people were playing Invoked, and you can still play it. Like you can still play. I remember you did it. You did Branded, Invoked. What was it? It was basically. I would personally call it like fusion.
I got a name.
Fusion power.
I created the name.
You created.
I created the name. I created the name. I remember going and speaking to the judge, the head judge. The head judge was sitting taking the deck list, and he looked up at me when he saw my list because it had Alistair in it, and having Alistair as a meme. And the head judge is taking in deck list, and he's looked up at me. He's just like raised he's just frowned at me. I've gone, yeah, and he's gone, what do you call this? Because he's looked down, he's seen 3-4 different archetypes mixed in. I'm just like, it's I call it Fusion BS. It's just a mixture of Fusion BS cards.
Fusion pile.
Yeah, it was Dogmatica, Dogmatica, Hero, Invoked. Well, when I say Hero, it was the package, the Phoenix package. Invoked. It was gold dust. Like, I loved it, but the game's gone too far now. It can't compete.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, for those who don't know what it had Dogmaticas, and the reason it had Dogmaticas in there was because Nadir 7 was a crazy one card for the deck. It had Alistar, because it was the best normal summon in the deck. It had Fusion Destiny, because DPE, there wasn't Bystials running around. It also had Branded Fusion, I believe. So
Yep, it did.
it was just an absolute mental one.
It was the best match of my life.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely good because you ended up getting you snuck into the top 128, which ended up getting you the mat, and the mat was beautiful.
It was the mat and the sleeves. What was it? I got 126. I was just like, it was the guy next
125th,
to
wasn't
me.
it?
Like the last 2 rounds, got 128, and we literally just looked at each other and just burst out into laughter. Like
Oh,
neither of
bro,
us had a right to do it. Like me with invoked, like in that format, I was just like, this is hilarious.
full on submarine. But yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
interesting that Invoked has kind of gone quiet. I'd expect that to kind of come back, but it makes it bad to say that it might have even been power crept. Anyway, okay, let's move on to our main phase 2. We're going to do a quick discussion about Maze of Memories, which is the brand new, wouldn't even call it a side set, reprint set, and then we will talk about your listener questions. So, main phase 2. We'll try not to get as sidetracked in this section as we have in the previous ones. No promises on that one. Anyway, so with our main phase 2, what we like to do is we like to kind of go over upcoming sets. And the new set that we're going to get in March is going to be Maze of Memories. Now, Maze of Memories introduces us to loads of reprints. It is a reprint set, while it also introduces us new support, but they're kind of cards that the OCG have got that we're now going to get. So it introduces us into, which I'm a little bit disappointed about on this one, it introduces us to Gate Guardian support, but it's not really Gate Guardian support. And what I mean by that is it's not, you kind of want Gate Guardian to be in the Legendary Duelist set where you get loads of support for the deck. But for this one, I think we get like a new Gate Guardian boss monster, like a retrain. We also get introduced into Firewall Dragon, Dark Fluid, Neo Tempest something, which is mental. Battle Royale mode joining. The Giant Soul. We've got the new BLS, which is a new ritual monster with an effect, which is really kind of cool that I'm looking forward to.
Amazing artwork. Artwork's incredible.
Artwork is incredible. We've got a Baron de Fleur reprint. We've got a Guardian Chimera reprint. We've got Dual Academy introduction as a field spell, I believe it is. There is the new Stardust Dragon. I don't know the exact names of everything because not everything has been confirmed. We're only going off of like what we see on the front cover. Wind Up Kitten is a reprint. Spellbook of Fate is a reprint. Mech Knight Crusader Avramax is a nice reprint. Teardrop the Rika Queen is a reprint. There is a new Hero Fusion monster, but it's more of a like a legacy card than the meta changing. So it's definitely a set that it's got some nice reprints, like I've already said, Baron de Fleur and Guardian Chimera, but we don't know exactly what else is in there. We don't know what else they're going to bury it with as of yet either. And we don't know what other new cards they're going to add or introduce. So my overall thoughts of Maze of Memories is it's an interesting set. Like I said, it's definitely got legacy tax, I would suppose, on it. And when I mean that, there's not really going to be a lot of upsell on it. We don't know what rarities they're going to introduce into it. It is a 25th anniversary set, so we'll start to get leaks possibly the week this podcast comes out, or during the week, and a little bit after. So, Carl, what's your like instant thoughts over just seeing the pack artwork of Maze of Memories?
Initially, when I first saw the artwork for the packs, I was so excited. Like, as I wouldn't say I'm an old player, but as of like 2014 player, I was really excited by some of the cards I was seeing. When everyone on that same day, we were all like zooming into the picture, going, "Is that Gate Guardian? What are you joking?" We've all been waiting for like that kind of support for years. There's cards in here that I saw in the OCG that I couldn't wait to get myself. But the set, it's okay. It's very much, if you're a collector, you get it. But unless you're after the reprints like Baron and Chimera, and I guess the Avramax, I don't think is a big sell point like by Konami. But then again, we don't know what else they put in. Like, I could say this now and be saying the complete opposite next week when we get more reveals. But there's cards in here that are absolutely collectible, and there's some that are competitive, but not many.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a reprint set. I wouldn't put it past them trying to put in like some special secret rarity or something like that. If
Mhm.
Baron is a secret, that would be a nice upgrade for people to chase. The Guardian Chimera could probably be a downgrade so that it's more easily accessible for people. It is one of them sets that you wait to see. Like we said, the
Mhm.
ones that we do know, it's got legacy support on it, which will probably be a little bit cheap unless it's hugely relevant for the competitive aspect of the deck, something like a Magician Souls level. But even that was only hyped up because mainly of spirals. So there's still a lot to kind of consider. There's still a lot of open in the Maze of Memories. Only time will tell how much is worth getting into it. And we'll do more on that the closer we get to actual reveals and leaks and everything else. So for
Any cards
now,
on the top of your head that you want from this set?
not that I want. I think reprint wise, I wouldn't be surprised if they do drop in stuff like. I mean, it looks like they're trying to cover. It says Maze of Memories. They're trying to cover lots of legacy stuff, but that's the issue. Is I reckon there will be reprints of the original Gate Guardian stuff, the original Labyrinth stuff. They might get upgraded to secrets. They might be like some special ultra rare set. They may be something a little bit different. But instantly they become the 50p cards that you pull and you're like, okay, cool. Well, as a collector, I've already got the originals, and if they're no special rarity, it is what it is. So it's great for those that have watched the anime but never got to have the cards. And then the competitive reprints in the form of like Baron and everything else is great reprints as well. The new cards will just be fan favorites, and then it kind of waits to be seen what else it will add or change. I think it's just going to be a lot of imported cards that we haven't had from the OCG yet, and some cards that are just due a major reprint. What about you?
Sure.
Anything that
I just
you're...
oh, for me, wow. There's a surprise. There's a lot. Um, Excel Synchro Stardust Dragon, definitely one of them. Like that card's incredible. Um, the overlay network is a big one for me for my ex sisters. Um, yeah, and the overlay network's probably the biggest one for me. But the synchro, but there's also a card that I think is really being slept on in here. People aren't talking about it. It's called Angel of Blue Tears. It literally says target one face-up monster on the field, cost. Its controller's opponent takes damage equal to the number of cards in the hand. So that would be you. It says then negate that target's effect until the end of this turn. If effect damage is inflicted, etc. on this damage step, you can banish this card from your graveyard. Set one normal trap directly from your hand or deck. It's a negate and a set, which I find it's really useful. Like if you really need to get to a certain trap in your a certain normal trap in your deck, it's a negate during your turn and it sets the card for you.
So it's basically, I'm just looking at it now. It's basically like a not Tratrix. What's the cards that were really annoying that burnt you every time you drew? Trickstar. It's basically a Trickster card. It's like, so you target your, so turn 0, target your monster, right? This is going to be a horrible time card. You normally summon your monster, you do whatever effect you need to do, search out Brand Fusion, for example. You activate this card, you target your Aluba that's already activated its effect. Its controller's opponent takes 200 damage to each card in their hand, so they're going to take 1,000 damage. The target monster's effects negate, which no one really cares about. And if either player takes effect damage except during the damage step, which of course they would do, you can banish this card from the graveyard to set a normal trap directly from your hand or deck. Takes effect. It has to be effect damage though. So.
But that is such a big deal right now. That effect damage is occurring. So it's not a big deal, but it's quite common at the moment.
Yeah, I mean it is a big thing in especially with time cons. But this is the interesting thing that I've started to notice, which is quite funny, is when you look at the high level competitive events, the good players never actually put like a time win con.
Like a time winning.
Well, what I mean by that is you never see top winning decks playing 3 Ghost Mourners. Is it Ghost Mourner? No. Spooky Dogwood, sorry. But locals, you see it everywhere just because the level is so different. Anyway, okay, so Maze of Memories, it's got some cool new cards that will be interesting to see. But again, I haven't seen anything in there that goes, oh my god, that's going to break the meta. Not that I want to see that. I want to see, oh my god, that BLS as a 25th anniversary secret rare looks incredible. I want it. That's what I want to see. And I don't want it to be
Mm.
one every 7,000 cases. I want it to be like one every box.
Yeah, I want to see Gate Guardian support that goes, oh my god, that's playable. I don't want it to be broken. I want it to be playable.
And you're back in the room of reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to. I would love because, like, I mean, Gate Guardian is probably one of the hardest monsters to properly summon out. But yeah, I would definitely love to see Gate Guardian get its only play. I want to see like a mini Suijin, a mini Kazuju, Kazuju,
Bless you.
Kazuju. Yeah, exactly. What is it? Is Suijin? These are all off the top of my head. I can't remember. It's Suijin. Oh, bugger.
I'm searching them. Let's do this.
Yeah, I can't remember their blooming names. So there's definitely...
Gate Guardian, Suijin, Kazjin, and Sanga.
Yeah, there we go. All right, I was close. Yeah, I want to see like mini versions of them that could pretty much. It would be so cool if they would kind of had like the effects of the Pokenites. Like you kind of want it to be okay if you control. Not like I want it to be like activate this field spell, special summon the 3 pieces of Gate Guardian from your deck in defense. Like give them limitations, make sure they're locked or something. But it would be really kind of cool.
You said 3 pieces. I was getting really nervous that your next word was going to be Exodia. I was like, just get out.
Special summon all 5 pieces of Exodia and return 1 of them to your hand. Banish the remaining 4. Oh, okay, that was good. Okay, cool. I think we're pretty much done on that one now. Let's move into our end phase, and we're going to talk about our listener questions. So this is the part of the podcast that I love the most because this is our time to basically give back to you guys or get to answer the questions you have asked. So I'm going to go through all of these and we'll work our way back. So the first one, this is where it kind of comes relevant. This is from LTH. What's a good deck right now to teach someone who's starting out with the game? Now, someone's mentioned Albaz or the Track Structure deck. Again, there's loads of good cards. I think ninjas are a little bit complex, but they are cheap. I feel Track Tricks is probably now your best time to get into it. Other than that, Dark Worlds I think are really good because they kind of simplify the game state. They give you boss monsters. They give you... It's kind of what I liked about the Sacred Beast structure deck is they gave you boss monsters. It meant you didn't need to rely on the extra deck. So if you're brand new to the game, you can learn the basic mechanics of boss monsters through your main deck. Dinos was obviously a really good example for this. Trap Tricks are great to kind of get you into lower level combos, the basics of Link summoning and XYZ summoning, and then the general trap control. And then I feel that when you move up to branded, that's when it starts getting a little bit more advanced because yes, it is just branded fusion and play, but it's learning with the Bystials, it's learning with the adaptation of it and everything else. So honestly, I think Trap Tricks is probably the best one right now, or Dark Worlds. I feel Dark Worlds is probably the easiest because then you don't need to worry about the trap cards and timing and everything like that. The only thing with Dark Worlds you need to remember is like how they can miss timing when they're discarded. But there's plenty of videos out online. They're the best ones to watch. And I think when a structure deck drops, they're the best time to kind of do some research into a deck because you'll see how the decks can evolve, how the decks add money into it, invest into them, and whether you need to invest high levels or not. And then you'll also have like tutorials, you'll see duels, and you'll just learn it and practice it. And then eventually you start to branch out and everything else that you get. What about you, Carl?
Yeah, no, 100% with what you've said. The only different thing is when you ask a question like that, decide what kind of play style suits you, and then look into that play style. Like, if you're brand new to the game and you're not, familiar with timing or the pronunciation of the cards and how targeting for cost, and maybe look at control. Be that guy. Go to your locals with a control deck. Yeah, like I think Trap Tricks right now is incredible. Like really being slept on. Considering you got someone like Pack advertising it, it's still being quite slept on. Me personally, Dark World's also so cool. If you want to go massive beatdown wombo combo, Dark World's an amazing shout. If you want to be control, sneaky, get those wins when you activate a card when they look like they're going for game and you just turn it around on them completely and then poke and chip away at them, the Traptrix is a good shout.
Yeah, Tratrix has definitely got this massive upgrade thanks to the new Structured X. So that would be our advice on that one. DSG, are you playing locals in London? If so, where do you go? Sadly, for me anyway, I'm nowhere near London at the moment. We did used to do Cockfosters, which was run by Tier Zero, but they don't have a bricks and mortar store, so they don't get Konami support. It makes it very, very difficult to run locals. There are some on the edge of London. You've got stuff like Harrow. You've got Hatfield in Hertfordshire. You've got there's one in Welling, Garden City, which is in Hertfordshire as well. So we're moving a little bit further out of London. But you've also got Brotherhood, Dark Sphere in London as well. So Brotherhood is one, Dark Sphere is another. I believe there's a Geek Retreat in.
There's two Geek Retreats, and there's Sneak Attack.
There you go, Sneak Attack and two Geek Retreats in London as well.
Yeah, you got Sneak Attack in Stratford. Been there with Joe from several War Games, and friendly people. Dark Sphere, also really great people. I've only been once, but I've just gone simply due to I haven't gone since I've had to work more. But there are them. There definitely are. There are the Greek retreats. There's one in Holloway. And I can't remember top of my head where the other one. So Geek Retreat, Holloway, Dark Sphere, and Sneak Attack.
There you go. So there's plenty around the place. There's obviously the Pit Gaming Shop as well, which is in Boreham Wood. So there's definitely different nights, different locals for your kind of best needs. Okay, so the other one we've got is from. Where's I scroll back up? Argoron, the creator. So he's got a few questions and a couple of cards that he would like us to share our honest opinions on. Question 1 would be possible. So he's asked us if we would do a revenge duel between Jaden's hero deck and the darkworld deck. It would be great to do anime style duels in that sense, and really build the deck in an anime situation. The issue is it's just not like we're all over the place, and the only time we ever meet up is when we're playing competitive Yu-Gi-Oh. So then, like, it's quite difficult for us to shift to something like that. But never know.
And it's also, what would you want? Would you want Dark Worlds when the game was played in the anime, or would you want them how they can be built today?
I mean, to be honest, if I was to do something like this, I would do a joint series. I would do like a then and now. Is that right? Yeah, then and now. So I'll do like, okay, this is Dark Worlds playing heroes as they were back in the anime, and then here's Dark World playing heroes now this very minute, because you would then add stuff like Destroy a Phoenix Enforcer and everything else. So that would be kind of cool.
I think if you do it, I'll just guess, if you were doing it then, how it was in the anime, Dark Worlds would win. If we were actually playing with the cards in front of us, like you didn't have hand traps, like Dark Worlds would still just ruin you then. Now
Dark Worlds get battered. Dark Claw, GG, bro.
I'd say with all the hand traps and me and Dale might have to agree to disagree here, but I'd go with heroes now.
Oh no, 100%. I agree with heroes. You just go Dark Claw. That's it. Game over. They can't play.
Yeah.
So, question 2: what do you guys think of this concept idea? Chaos number monsters have a further evolution, like Chaos Beyond. The idea is that this evolution is more powerful than the CFX gains the CFX, which are also the weakness, stable weakness to have on the field. Like I never really rated the C cards because they were so difficult to. Obviously, I joined late, so I was post the C cards anyway. But
don't forget we get support for them in the new set that we've just discussed.
Yeah, they just need stuff to be more consistent.
Utopia.
They should have been like Utopia. They should have been like. I think some of them are. Yeah. But they should have been like, just rank on top.
And it didn't work out, sadly. The extra step up, the chaos and the barrier, and
Okay, so he's also given us a couple of custom cards to go over. So we've got Aroma Seraphy, Cherry, Enchancia. Dyslexia here.
Mm-hmm.
That ain't gonna happen. It's a Link 3 monster, 2+ mop. Oh, it's a plant. It's a generic plant. I like this because it, Rika Sun Avalon. Where have you gone, bro? Oh, including one Aroma monster. I mean, that's not that hard to do in plants. So If your life points are higher than your opponent's, this card and any plant monster it points to cannot be destroyed by battle and cannot be tributed by your opponent's card effects. Okay. Monsters your opponent controls with stimulating counters. God, where's this going? Must attack this card if able. Also, they cannot activate their effects. So it's basically like Dracostapelia. Monsters you control with stimulating counters become dark. And once per turn, if you gain life points, target one monster your opponent controls and place a stimulating counter on it. Okay, so it produces counters. And monsters you control become dark. Monsters your opponent controls must attack, but their effects are negated. So it's kind of like a hybrid between Dracostapelia and some other cards. I think it's kind of cool. I think it'd be interesting.
Making all cards you control dark. Ugh.
Super
No.
Poly. Waff.
Yeah. No. I'm just glad you didn't say like make all cards in your possession, because then it would just be like, here come branded.
Make all cards on the field dark. Yeah, we're going Super Poly. Okay, that's interesting. Cursed Book of the Dark World. It's a continuous spell with the effect. This when this card is activated, discard one card, and if you do, your opponent must banish 5 monsters with different names from each other from their deck. And if they do that, place 5 counters on it. What? Oh, you must love counters. What's going on? Place 5 counters on this card. Monsters banished by this effect cannot activate their effects. Also, any card or effect that would move them from the banish is negated instead. Each time you take damage, remove 1 counter on this card. If this card has 0 counters, send this card to the graveyard. Add 1 Super Poly from your deck to the hand. You can only activate 1. I mean, the effect is crazy. The effect is it can't be played in this game. Yeah, however, if you were to say this card is for the anime only, I could probably see it actually, because it does have a very good theme with that kind of.
He said, make your opponent banish 5 cards, and none of them can be activated. But you gain all these other effects.
Yeah, gain the counters, rip their deck apart as well.
Plus for you and your opponent.
They've got 5 cards with different names as well. Okay, the last one is Cyber New Phoenix. It's a machine fire level 4. If this card is sent to the graveyard to activate a cyber card effect, liking it, or if this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can draw 1 card. Then if you drew a cyber spell or trap, you can reveal it to add 1 spell or trap from your graveyard to the hand. Okay. When a card...
If you had
Go on.
A art-type spell and trap, I'd agree. But because you said any spell and trap, I can't agree.
Oh, you're right. It just says add 1 spell or trap. I assumed it was a cyber spell or trap. That would be pretty cool.
Cool, I'm with you.
Add back imperm. That would have been cool. When a card or effect is...
That monster reborn.
Yeah. When a card or effect is activated that targets a cyber monster or monsters you control, quick effect, I hate card effects like this. You can banish this card in your graveyard, then target 1 cyber monster in your graveyard, negate that effect, and if you do, special on that target. You can only use this effect once per turn. So it's basically like mana, but it actually negates the effect.
The special is broken. It should actually make you have to pay a cost. So like banish, you shouldn't gain from that effect.
No, I like the special summon. I just hate bloody card effects that say when this card is targeted.
Negate and special summon when it's a card that's already been used and it's in the grave.
Yeah, fair. Maybe it should just be banish and negate.
It should be like you target a card, banish it, and then negate, not target, special summon, and negate. You're gaining too many resources.
I mean, to be fair though, in the way that that's worded, if it was to special summon and then negate, if you banish the monster that is trying to special summon, it doesn't negate, so it does have a pretty big weakness. That would be kind of cool. Okay. Yeah. Well. Yeah. So if it works annoyingly, Dark Magician, bringing this back, has a trap card that's really good but also really bad, and it's a combination because it targets a Dark Magician or a Dark Magician Girl in the graveyard opposite to what you already control. Summon it back, and then if you do, negate the card effect. And it's like, bro. So not only do I have to have a Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl in the graveyard and then have a Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl on the field, I then need to successfully bring it back to negate something. It's like, nah. Last question. Andrew Smith. Mm-hmm. What's your best moment playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And your worst moment playing Yu-Gi-Oh?
You go first.
I'm trying to think it around.
Well, you think I can give my worst.
You can give your worst.
Yeah.
Go on and give us your worst.
My worst is Dino format, and I was playing Subterra, and I was doing really well with it. I was doing really well at locals with it. When I say Subterra, I mean Guru control, and I was ready, the most prepared I think I've been for a format. And I can't remember which regional it was. I think it was Nottingham, and I'd gone 4-0. And I just felt it, when you're on your day, you're on your day. I'd had an amazing weekend, and I was feeling it. And gone up against my opponent, and it was a controlled game state. I believe he had a floodgate of some sort, and I managed to get around it. And I needed to top deck. What was it? That was it. He got my guru in the grave that I needed to bring back with, annoyingly, normal summon Fiendess effect, flip it, summon the guru, and I had 2 final battle sets. So with that and the damage, I would have been able to go for game from the final battle and to flip it into attack. And bring it into attack. And instead, I also had a guru in. No, I had a guru in hand, but I normal summoned the guru while saying the words "normal summon Fiendess," and I've let go of the card, and I've looked down at the game state, and my opponent's just looked at me and gone, "That's not Fiendess." And I've looked down and seen it and just gone, "No," and I've revealed him hand. I've gone, "But this is." He's gone, "Sorry, I've got to accept that game state." So, and once that happened, and I went into round 6, and I'd completely lost my head at this point, and I just had to pick my cards up and go. It wasn't that I was angry; it was the fact that I was just so upset with myself for doing that it ruined the rest of the day for me.
Just gonna kill the microphone as I make an eBay purchase. Yeah, no, I mean that's just one of them. They're those heartbreaking moments that, I mean, you don't expect. I personally would not expect my opponent to let me take that back, because I personally probably wouldn't, depending on, like, if it was at locals and friendly, you let it take it back. Yeah, it's just one of them heartbreaking moments. It's a mistake that you've made, but it's one of them ones that you kind of learn and look back on. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Best moment was at Euros just gone. Well, it wasn't Euros, like you said, it was a championship. Just went, funnily enough, just I've done better, but for some reason this felt incredible. Just winning a side event with Noon
Oh, that
like
was amazing.
it was so weird. Like I've had better achievements in the game, but for some reason that felt top. Like it was just ridiculous in a sprite. Like it was sprite format with tier scattered here and there and mathmex here and there, and beating a tier sprite and then a mathmech in the final with Numeron OTK. Oh, with my team either side of me, it was hysterical.
Yeah, but it wasn't just that. That's without context. The reason that made it so hysterical is it went to
Yeah.
game 3, and it got to. I don't
He
know.
was ripping a card up my hand, and I had Numeron Wall, Numeron Network, and Lava Column. As long as he didn't hit the Lava Column, I win.
Yeah, it was insane, absolutely insane. Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what to say to that. It was incredible to watch. Um, so yeah, I don't even know what to say. It was absolutely mental to watch that happen. So keep in mind that this was like a very not stressful, but it
We
didn't.
got 4 decks we didn't want to play in the main event.
Yeah, we all chose the wrong decks, so the main event kind of sucked, and then we went and did the side events.
But we got told we had an hour to input our decks. They were shutting registration. So, like, the deck I wanted to play wasn't built. The only deck I had built was a deck I wasn't experienced with. So I was forced to play that in the main event. So that's when we went into the side event, and I played Numeron for giggles, and it worked out so well. I was like, oh my god, this is brilliant.
I've always found that though. I've always found that either the last minute choice you make, or like just the last minute choice you make and the least prepared deck you play, it's just always more fun. Like it's less
Definitely.
stressful as well. So yeah, my what is my best moment playing you? I think my most
Dark Magician.
yeah, I mean, I was going to say that. I think that's probably like my biggest achievement to date, and I've done a lot of things with Yu-Gi-Oh, but to go to 100-person regional with Dark Magician to win the Dark Magician mat was the pinnacle for me. Like, it's kind of one of them. Obviously, you know, the pinnacle of playing Yu-Gi-Oh is to like win worlds and stuff like that, but to be able to go to a big tournament. Now I know 100 people region was probably like standard local level in America, but to us that's pretty decent. And this was after COVID. If it was to get any other mat, like I was thinking about this the other day, and I was like, the last regional mat that I did win, I won it. It was the Thunder Dragon Colossus mat, and I won it with Thunder Dragon Dinos. So it turns out, touch wood, without trying to jinx myself brutally here, if I want to win the mat, I have to play the deck that the mat is representing to win it.
Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, it was just so nervous on the last round. I thought I was so close to quitting as well, because I lost a round where I pretty much threw it away, and I got so disheartened. I was like, oh, for God's sake, how have I managed to do this? I was like, you know what, I don't think I'm going to do this. And then I just went on a run, and I was like, okay, I might do this. And I snuck in with it, and I was like, yeah. So that was probably my best moment. My worst moment playing Yu-Gi-Oh. I don't know if I've had like a worse moment, like a moment where I'm kind of like, either I've lost my temper at someone, like playing the game.
I think I can recall one that's where you just had an opponent that was just so obnoxious and so rude. But
oh yeah, I have had some that actually. I'll tell you that about. Yeah, I have. Annoyingly, it was at a regional.
I think, you know, the one before lockdown that we went to was you had one round where you came to us and you were like spitting fumes.
One before lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
God, I can't
So it
remember.
would have Germany would.
Was it Germany? No. I was spitting fumes at the Euros just gone. Because my opponent was just so rude. But I still wouldn't.
Yes, it was the one we just did, because
Yeah,
I
it was
remember
the one we just
meeting you beside and you couldn't maintain eye contact. That you were just furious.
Oh, mate, I was just angry. But it's not like the majority of times it's absolutely fine. And there have been times where I'm like, oh damn, I shouldn't have lost that. But I think I've kind of, apart from my opponent being rude, and that's what I can't stand. Like I've faced some of the best players in Yu-Gi-Oh that have the right to be, that I would say have the right to be overconfident.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, they're not massively arrogant. Like I can remember, and this is the worst thing about it, well, not worst thing, it's probably a good thing. I can remember my match against Marcus Patel. I can remember my match against Alex Robertson as well. I can't remember exactly what I was playing, or can I? No, I can't remember those. I could definitely remember what I played against Marcus Patel. He was playing like Metaphors, and I was playing Dark Magician, and this was back in like 2017 or 16. But they're all learning experiences, and I've never had they've been great opponents to go up against. I faced a lot of the tier 0 lot. They've been pretty good to do.
Yeah, I remember Nats I went against Thomas Rose when I think it was the last year that he piloted Burning Abyss. Guy's a complete gentleman. Like you can't. Yeah, some of them are just absolutely incredible people. So, like you said, so are Alex and Marcus Patel.
I mean, this is just what makes it a disappointing. Like I know you get some arrogant players out there that are just like, okay, cool, I got this. Da, 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 da. And it's like, okay, cool, fine. And you kind of sit there and go, all right, I got absolutely battered then. But then you just have some really rude and obnoxious people, and it's not the irony is, and this isn't my story, but the bad players always show their true colours when they're losing, not when they're winning. When they're winning, they're back straight, looking down on you. As soon as they're losing because they're being outplayed, they look for anything, absolutely anything they can do to get out of it.
Shrug.
to try and ultimately shark you. And I think some of the stuff is like time rules and everything like that kind of brings it on itself. But
It does.
yeah, that'd probably be my worst one. Is some opponents I faced, or at least one of them. Yeah, I don't want to end a podcast on such a
I know.
disappointing
get
kind of
that.
aspect. We should have
Definitely.
started with our worst and then done our best. I suppose I'll tell you
And
what. Another one of the best things that I've ever done with Yu-Gi-Oh was being able to do this channel, being able to do pretty much obviously everything from the back of this. So when we were able to come together and we were able to run Zephyr together as a bricks and mortar, like not a store but like a locals, going to Euros, going to like literally your away days are amazing. When you go to Euros, when you go to Nats, when you do anything like that, they're so good. Yes, they are very, very tiring, but they are such great experiences, and that's why I think everyone's looking forward to YCS London. I can't wait for that. It's going to be very interesting to see, and I might scrub out, but the side events are going to be fun, and it's local, so localish. So
the positives always outweigh the negatives in this game. They really do. As long as your heart is in the game, yeah, the positives will always outweigh the negatives.
yeah, exactly. Cool. All right. Well, I think we are going to call it there on that episode. Thank you to every single one of you that has sent in the questions. It's always great to hear from you guys, and it's going to be great to hopefully get another episode of the podcast out. So in order for us to keep bringing these podcasts, all we need to do is like download it from Spotify, iTunes, Podomatic, you name it, or watch it on YouTube and go along with it that way. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, so much for watching. I've been Dale. That voice on the other end of the line has been Carl.
Me.
That's me. And we are way past our bedtime. So thanks so much for watching. As absolutely always, guys, stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.